We sure do live in crazy times. So much misinformation, disinformation, propaganda, BS, and lies just surrounding virtually everything that we consume nowadays. We really need more critical thinking in our lives. Hey everyone, it's me, the amazing Flec, and if you're new to this channel, I'm currently on break at work during a 16-hour shift using a treadmill in the basement. I promised my viewers I would post every single day of the year, and here I am right here, right now, making the most of my time. Today I want to talk about critical thinking, its importance, how we could use it, and what it can do. They say that we are currently in the information age, but I think we are moving into a place called the disinformation age. Or we're already there, or we've already been there for quite some time. A big advantage to having access to information just freely shared all over the world is that there is a more of a freedom of expression, and a freedom to be able to share that is a wonderful, wonderful thing for a lot of reasons. But one of the downsides to that is that there's no real control or handle over the quality of the information that we take in. And I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that because we need to have the freedom to be able to share and access information. I feel that that's more important than requiring some sort of protection from harm from sensitive information. Because who determines what's good or bad information, what's worth censoring and what's worth not censoring? I would like to hope that I'm able to do that on my own, and that I don't need some sort of regulatory agency or a government or a society of people determining whether or not I can access information or use it in my assessments of what's real and what's not real. So in consideration of all that, critical thinking is very, very, very important to understand and utilize when it comes to sorting through information that you take in. There's a lot of different definitions for critical thinking, and I'll name off a few. A simple definition is the analysis of facts in order to form a judgment. Another one is self-directed, self-disciplined, self-monitored, and self-corrected thinking. Another one is disciplined thinking that is clear, rational, open-minded, and informed by evidence. Another one is a commitment to reason in order to form one's beliefs. The skill and propensity to engage in an activity with reflective skepticism, appraising information based on careful analytical evaluation, and of course training the mind to become more self-aware of how it gathers, processes, organizes, and applies information. Some of the earliest examples of critical thinking go back to a fellow named Socrates, a Greek philosopher and great teacher. Socrates believed to have a life worth living, and to live a truly good life, one must be a critical questioner and possess an interrogative soul. And a fun little side note, he also believed that people who are in power are just as subject to having false delusions and poor judgment as people who are not in power. Something to think about. Now there's a number of different barriers that prevent people from thinking critically and having more of a clear perception, more clear way of processing the information, and a more clear way of communicating it, as well as executing any solutions to issues that might arise. But there's 5 big ones I'd like to share with you here today. One of them is egocentrism. This is like self-serving thinking or self-serving bias. It's more or less coming to conclusions that just kind of fit your own narrative and your own view of reality, that feel good to you and serve you as a human being, and overlook evidence that might be contrary to those ideas. Dangerous place to be, and a lot of people fall victim to that one. Sociocentrism. This comes along when you have a group bias or a conformism kind of approach to reasoning. I guess you could compare it to like, well, everyone else in this particular group that I identify with does this or thinks this way, therefore I ought to also. And it's done subconsciously. It's not like you're doing this on purpose, and sometimes we are, but typically I feel it's done subconsciously. The third one is unwarranted assumptions. This happens all the time. We see it every day. It comes with stereotypes, prejudices, and just downright assumptions about what you think is true about someone. It could be a complete stranger, it could be someone you know or you're close to. Ideas that we get in our head that we think are true, but we have no real reasoning behind it other than maybe a personal anecdote or something we heard someone say on the news the other day, or some crazy meme you might have seen on social media. It's ridiculous, but we all fall victim to these things. We all have this echo chamber that is created by ourselves, and it's important to take a look at that and see it for what it is. A fourth one is wishful thinking. This one's huge. This one's really, really big. So often are people ready to believe in something simply because they really want it to be true. You see this a lot with children when it comes to like Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, the Truth Fairy. The Truth Fairy. I meant the Tooth Fairy. But the idea is, I remember when I was a child, I didn't want to believe that Santa wasn't real when I figured out that it's a possibility that Santa isn't real. My better judgment suggested that It's very unlikely that there's this guy flying around in the sky with a bunch of reindeer, one who has a glowing nose to guide the way, squeezes down chimneys in some sort of way that doesn't break any of the brick and mortar, and somehow gets in houses that don't even have chimneys, just to leave a bunch of presents he worked hard to make this whole entire year, and without actually getting any solid credit for it. And I saw some complete brats and jerks at my school get some of the most amazing gifts from Santa that it kind of threw a whole wrench in that process of thinking. So I was grateful to have some level of critical thinking at a young age, but once again, we're all victim to these blocks. So to move forward, the fifth one, relativistic thinking. This one's a little more difficult to explain, but I'll try my best. It's where you think that reality and truth is relative to whoever the observer is or the community of people. So a way you could put it is that maybe a particular religious group or a society of people or a culture of people have their own reality and it's different from someone else's reality. It's kind of like taking away the idea that there is an objective reality out there and that reality is just something that is purely subjective and changes from one group or individual or society of people to another. And there's arguments to suggest that that may or may not be true to some degree and to some different extents. But for the most part, I really do believe that there is some semblance of an objective reality out there. However changing it does change, and however abstract it might be. But I also feel that human beings have inherent flaws in our perception and our ability to apprehend and comprehend and think these things through. So it's important to keep that in mind when you think about a relativistic point of view when it comes to different angles of reality. It's just another perspective viewing something that is objectively real, in my opinion. And we can all be victim very easily to these different barriers in critical thinking. It's important to look at them and assess them and wonder which ones affect the way I view my reality. I think it's real important. A fellow by the name of Roger H. Ennis is very much respected in his field when it comes to the subject of critical thinking. In fact, he wrote a book called Critical Thinking. And this fellow's got a very, very long definition for what critical thinking is. So I wrote it down. I hope you don't mind if I look away from the camera for a second. Critical thinking is the intellectually disciplined process of actively and skillfully conceptualizing, applying, analyzing, synthesizing, and/or evaluating information gathered from or generated by observation, experience, reflection, reasoning, or communication as a guide to belief and action. That's a mouthful. It's a lot of words in one go. And it's easy to forget sometimes that words often carry a subjective meaning to them or can be misinterpreted or interpreted in many different ways. So the advantage of having this many words into this definition that apply and hit different angles of what he's trying to get at, I think is very useful in this particular context. To fully illustrate and communicate what I'm trying to get at here is you can take something like the word literally, and the word literally, as of now, literally means figuratively instead. Why is this? Because so many people have used the word literally in the wrong way, such as, I literally died, or I was literally flying, when they really mean figuratively. And because this word has been used in this way so much over the years, the official definition has changed to meaning a figurative definition instead of a literal definition. Words are symbols that suggest meaning. So language evolves and changes over time, and words can have different meanings to different people and mean different things to different people. And that's something important to keep in mind when you do communicate and when you do process and sort information. Very important, in my opinion. Robert H. Ennis, he also came up with something called the F.R.I.S.C.O approach to critical thinking. This approach to critical thinking has also been applied in various other fields, but we're going to keep away from those fields and just focus on the field of critical thinking and the philosophy of critical thinking. F.R.I.S.C.O stands for focus, reasons, inferences, situation, clarity, and overview. The Frisco approach is more or less an easy way to remember how to go through the process of thinking critically. I recommend you don't just take it from some guy on a treadmill on the internet and maybe go research it for yourself and see what you can gather from it that I might have missed or that can help explain this better than I can. Focus is the central core issue or problem that's being assessed and questioned at the moment. It's good to have a clear, concise focus of what exactly you're dealing with. If you don't have a solid focus, you can suddenly trail off into different places that may or may not be relevant to the issue at hand. Reasons is when you determine the relevance of the facts at hand and the quality of the arguments. I mean, if you're coming to a conclusion, you really want to know what is influencing you to come to that conclusion and determine whether or not it's even relevant to the issue. Oftentimes we can see people taking information and facts and using that in their judgment of coming to a conclusion on something without actually testing to see if what it is valid or even accurate by any means. They just take the information in and go with it without thinking about it. As well as the quality of the arguments, that's something else you really want to consider as well. Now, when we talk about arguments here, we're talking about it in the logical sense or in the philosophical sense. We're not talking about two people arguing and yelling at each other. We're talking about two opposing viewpoints that have supporting facts and weighing them against each other in order to come to some sort of rational conclusion. And that, of course, takes us to inferences, which is the comprehension and recognizing the steps guiding the reasoning and assessment one uses in order to come to a conclusion on any particular issue. It's real important to look at what thought process you're using in order to come to that conclusion. I can't stress that enough. Situation is very important also. It goes back and it ties all this stuff together. This is all about context and recognizing the individual situation. So situation is more or less an awareness that there's an overall context of the problem being defined and outlined, and it's important to pay attention to that before you come to more conclusions. Then there's clarity, which is of course the testing of the soundness of the prepositions. So whatever you're proposing to be true or false, you want to be able to test whether or not that's even sound. A sound argument is an argument that is not only valid, but all of the premises are also true as well. Meaning that all of the reasons that one listed to come to that conclusion are all true, as well as the statement itself. I hope that makes sense. And finally, we have overview, which is probably the most important part of the whole process, in my opinion, is when you take a look at the whole entire process that you went through, as well as the conclusions, and you kind of double back on them and make sure that they are sound and that they're true, and that the processes that you use to come to those conclusions are indeed legitimate or reliable and accurate. So this kind of begs the question now, is like, who determines whether something is sound or not sound, or something's true or not true? That's the whole point of this video, is to encourage you to think for yourself and not take in information from other people without considering it and double backing on it, and even double backing and considering about your own preconceived ideas of what's real and what's not real. This video was more or less inspired by all of the fake stuff that's being shared out there in the world today. There's a lot of motivations for it. There's political motivations, there's religious motivations, there's scientific motivations, there's anti-scientific motivations, there's anti-religious and anti-political motivations. There's trolling motivations where people just want to get a rise out of people and see who's gullible enough to believe crap. And there's probably other motivations out there too. There's all sorts of motives to do weird and stupid things. And in light of all that, we need critical thinking more than we've ever needed it before. The world is getting very loud, very confusing, and just full of BS. And we need to know how to navigate through this, because mental illness is no laughing matter. It's no joke, and it's consuming us on a global scale. And to get through this, we need to utilize more critical thinking in our own lives, and also utilizing compassion, empathy, and understanding to understand why other people think the way they do, and to use good communication skills and empathetic communication skills, nonviolent, non-confrontational communication techniques, in order to show people other perspectives. Because you have to consider, how often has your mind been changed by someone telling you that you're wrong and you're an idiot and insulting you? More often than not, my mind has been changed for the better by people who have shown me a new perspective and shown me why this perspective is accurate. That's what's changed my mind over the years. No one's ever changed my mind by calling me an idiot or a sheeple or a snowflake or a libtard or a rhino or whatever else. But when someone can show me a different way to look at things and offer new information and a new light and a new perspective on how to view information in a respectful manner, more often than not, it does change my mind, and I do upgrade myself, and I do change, learn, and grow through compassion, understanding, and clear-cut communication. So if you were expecting something funny tonight, I'm sorry. This was a very serious post, but hey, you can't have comedy without drama, right? I'd like to thank you for sticking with me and watching this video to the very end. I think it's a very important issue, and I'm really glad that you did stick with me to the end and watch this video all the way through. Thanks very much. All right, everyone, this is where I leave it. Please remember to keep safe, be well, stay humble.